Welcome to the Femininja Project. I am your host, Cheryl I Love, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the Femininja Project. Welcome to another episode of the Femininja Project, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you tuning in. And of course, as you know by now, the Femininja is all about finding your voice, standing your ground, personal empowerment, and restoring human dignity, as well as taking care of yourself and self-healing. And we have a fantastic guest today who's going to share a lot of her wisdom and her insights with us. Her name is Michele Johnson. She is a certified life coach, physician assistant, wife, and mother. She is also the author of the best-selling book titled Pain Free: How to Live a Full Life Despite Chronic Pain. Michele helps overworked women go from being stressed out and exhausted to energized and rejuvenated. And she's going to explain how she does that and how you can find your energy and vitality at the same time. Michele, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. From the first moment we connected and had a lovely phone conversation, I just fell in love with you. I love your energy. I love your story, and I love everything you have that you stand for. So tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, your life's journey, and what brought you to this point in your life.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for such an incredible and humbling introduction. Femininja is kind of all about what we stand for in life as women who go through things, who have a journey and a story to tell. So I'm just grateful for this platform and the ability to kind of share with women and guys who share this warrior spirit. And so as far as my story goes, I always start off by saying, I don't understand how amazing the creator must be to have a life like I've had. I come from the west side of Chicago. I was born to an incredible mom and dad who were full of love, but not full of a lot of means. And so I am the first generation college graduate in my family, immediate family. And going from seeing people who are loving and struggling and working to get everything that they have, to being a person who was denied disability at the age of 23 after being diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain illness, and being told, hey, you'll never dance again. And we talked a little bit about that as a fellow dancer and how hard it can be to be told, hey, you can't do something that you love to do. And what I love about life and what I love about my story is that sitting in the disability office, watching a woman, size me up for looking young and fit as a dancer at 23, but having this debilitating illness that was making me crawl to the bathroom every morning because my legs wouldn't work, and having me fall asleep on the road in between stop signs because I just could not stay awake. And just knowing that people judge you by how you look. And I looked absolutely healthy and absolutely fine. And so to know with that background that, hey, there could have been a lot of ways my life could have turned. And having a mom that said things to me like, baby, you can always pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and start all over again. And when I received my denial letter from the disability office saying that I would not receive any assistance, despite not being able to work in the capacity that I used to, those words from my mom is what got me up, got me thinking, got me imagining what could be next.
Mm.
And after going back to school to become an ophthalmic technician, I got around people and doctors who believed in me, believed in the care that I was providing to their patients, and encouraged me to go back to school. And so I went on to get my bachelor's in public health, my master's from Duke University as a physician assistant, now practicing in family medicine. Have the opportunity to travel to both Cuba and China, studying traditional Chinese medicine and holistic
Mm.
healthcare. And so I've learned just how important it is to be thoughtful in your preventative healthcare, thoughtful in your self care in order to have your best life. And so now, through those experiences, that's what I teach. That's kind of my jam. I learned that listening to patients, listening to clients who are at the end of their rope due to stress, due to having it built up in their body, built up in their psyche, that we can make a difference by just implementing self-care. And it is custom
Mm.
to every single person. Nobody, no two people are alike, right?
Mhm.
But that was my journey. That was my story in a nutshell.
So I'm really curious, when you were going through the fibromyalgia and all the pain that you were experiencing and going to the doctors and applying for disability, did anybody even suggest or address the fact that you might have some stress in your life that could be exacerbating your condition?
I will say in a roundabout way,
Mm.
because I went to 8 doctors before I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia.
Wow.
Being 23 years old, young and fit and striving, I mean, I was working, I was a youth minister, I was teaching teens, so I was doing a lot. And so they had reasons for me to be tired. Okay.
Mm.
And so the thought was, are you exerting yourself too much? Are you depressed? Are you anxious?
Mhm.
And so the first thought was put her on some antidepressants,
Mm.
let's help with that part. And what happened was it just did not address my physical
Mhm.
ailments at all.
So one thing I just have to point out is when you're going to all these doctors, and by the time
Mhm,
they're finally asking you, are you depressed? Are you anxious? It's kind of like at this
mhm,
point, you really kind of are. Because when
mhm.
somebody is not giving you any answers and you're feeling kind of stuck, even though you are doing everything you can to figure it out, and it's like, well, here, just take these medications and see what happens. But you mean, I understand the stress and the anxiety of going through something like that that just exacerbates the experience and the symptoms.
And, oftentimes you will have an abnormal lab or something that is a little bit out of the ordinary with your workup. And so that confounds the issue too, right?
Mm.
So now they think, okay, well, you have anemia and you have this problem, and that's the thing we have to solve. And, you know, medicine is amazing. I love being a medical provider, but we don't know everything, right?
Mhm.
And so, with that, they try to find something to hang on to that they know.
Mhm.
And when you can't fix it, then what do? You throw your hands up a lot of times.
Mhm.
And, you've had that experience where doctors will say, well, I'm sorry, we don't know what to do. This is how it's going to be.
Mhm. And just
And
live
so
with it. Yeah.
live with it.
And
Mhm,
that's, again, I have a medical background as well. I was a respiratory therapist for 17 years before I got my master's in physical therapy. And it was toward the end of my respiratory career that I was having my issues and my chronic pain syndrome, and lived with that for 2.5 years. And they told me that the arthritis in my spine was so severe, I would never be able to do my laundry and my grocery shopping all in the same day because I would end up being bedridden. So they were basing this all on a little bit of inflammation that they saw on, I can't even remember if it was the CAT scan or an MRI. I don't remember. It was
mhm.
that long ago. But so that's what they were basing it on. And when I just said, I'm not going to live like this, and I took matters into my own hands, basically discovered through my own exploration, even before I became a physical therapist, that it was actually the soft tissue dysfunction
Mm.
and the muscle spasms that were compressing my sciatic nerve that was causing a lot of the symptoms that I had. So if I had listened to them, and I was told to start applying for disability, but I didn't get to
Wow.
that point. Yeah, and I was only 36. But had I done that, you and I wouldn't be here having this wonderful conversation right now. So I think that's,
Exactly.
yeah. And as you said, that's God's gift. That's the blessings that we received, especially through going through something that is really unpleasant and painful.
And don't we always go through something unpleasant and painful to grow, to
Yes.
kind of discover our gift in the world, the thing that we have to offer other people? There's
Mhm.
always this road we walk in order to be someone who has gone through something in order to help somebody else. And so being in a helping profession, being on a platform that gives the way you do, we kind of had to have those painful stories in order to be in this work.
Exactly. And I always like to say, and this is based on my martial arts background, life is full of hits.
Yes,
And they come in a variety of different attacks and forms, be it physical, mental, emotional, psychological, health related, financial related. I mean,
come on.
exactly. So, how we deal with it. And you are a perfect example of dealing with it with the spirit of a warrior. But that's what it takes. It takes that spirit, that inner strength that I truly believe is in each and every one of us. Once we say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. What am I going to do about it?
Hmm,
And that's
that's
what you,
always the question.
so then what is the answer? Because it seems like you've come up with quite a few answers yourself. And if you can kind of share some of those, what worked for you and how you are applying all of your wisdom to help other people, because you have some amazing programs that you do, and your coaching programs are amazing. I was looking at your website this morning and it was like, oh, wow, sign me up just prophylactically. I want to learn
Yes,
more.
I love it. I love it. So the question that you're asking me is, how have the things that I've learned help others now? And what I've learned from my own experience is that number one, community is so important. Tribe and the people that you surround yourself with is so incredibly important. I didn't understand that you can learn all the things, right? You can go and learn something in a book. You can attend lectures. You can educate yourself. You can try to DIY and put things into practice. But the benefit of mentorship, community, tribe is that they have many times explored the route that you're going and can help you not make the missteps on your journey. They can help you get to your destination sooner, quicker, faster, and with less hits, less lumps than if you had to do things by trial and error. And I'll give you a great example. When I talk about community, I mean, there's so many ways that that works, right? We have our family of origin, and not all of us grew up in a family that could be a support, that could be a community for us when we're trying to get better in our lives, right? Many of us have come from trauma, from difficult circumstance, right? And so we have to find our tribe, our sisterhood of belonging, or our community of belonging that helps us get to where we want to go. Okay. And so that's why I offer like the 6 days to self care program that I'm offering right now. I offer the 6 week stress reset because as a group in a community, you have accountability to what you say you want to do because somebody's going to be checking on you. You have not only accountability, but you have the ability to vent and know you're not alone. Because
Mm.
sometimes we can really get in our heads with thinking we're the only ones who have ever had this issue, this problem. And though your situation may be unique, how you feel, how you deal with the circumstance is so abundantly human. We are so human. there's not a lot that's new under the sun with our
Mm.
emotions and how we could go about doing things. And so, trying on these evidence based techniques, getting that resilience from having community around you and keeping you accountable is huge and life changing. Okay.
I think with community as well, and especially as, we're coming out of, I hope, this era of COVID.
COVID.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have been so isolated, and that feeling of being alone and, not having the resources that we had prior to just being able to go have lunch or coffee with somebody, has really kind of exacerbated everybody's stress and anxiety. So you're absolutely right. Just the power of community in every single aspect of your life is just so important. The human connection. I mean, we were meant to connect.
Yes.
You don't have to like everybody, but we are meant. We're human animals. I mean, we're very social.
Absolutely. And we are social learners,
Mm,
right? We learn from each other. Not that we need to compare or take on someone else's story. Don't get me wrong there. But when we're having difficulty with a task,
mhm,
because we all come from different parts of the world, we all come from different pieces of the puzzle. Just think about the diversity of conversation, right? Even now with our world and what's going on with the racial injustices and the Asian attacks, right?
mhm,
Having someone of a different persuasion or perspective at the table just brings up a whole bunch of new ideas about someone else's walk through this world. If you didn't have that person sitting at the table, it is possible to walk through the world and not know
mhm,
their perspective and not know that this whole segment of the population is dealing with this every day.
mhm.
And so when you think about community and what it does, bringing those different perspectives, you get an opportunity to get sped up in your knowledge.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by we're social learners.
And I love that you say that. And that's one of the reasons why I make it very clear that I include men on the show. I include people in all walks of life and all age groups. I've actually interviewed a lovely young lady who was 13 years old.
Oh, I
And
love it.
oh, she's something else. I'll let you know when her episode goes live because she's pretty much amazing. And then I actually interviewed somebody, a woman who was 90, who happened to be my Aunt Stella. The more we can communicate with each other, and we all have our stories, and the more we can share our stories, it's like, I never knew that. I never even thought
Mm,
about that. And like you said, the
right.
different perspectives that we all have. I mean, even, I told you I have 4 sisters. Even in our family of 5 girls, even though we are so much alike, each and every one of us have a different story, different personalities, different experiences. We share a whole lot of DNA, but different biology and physiology as well. And that's to be embraced and honored.
Well, we know the ideal. And on our road to that, on our road to the acceptance and the tolerance, and I just am so grateful that these stories are getting out.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, hey, everyone has a different story. Even if we're from the same DNA, everyone has a different perspective and a way of dealing with things. And so
Mhm.
I'm just grateful we get to talk about it.
But one of the things I love that you said about the 6 days to self-care, the thing I
Yes.
love, well, I love many things about that. But one of the things I really love, it's okay, 6 days. You can do this. It's only 6 days. It's not even a full week. So makes it easy and accessible to anybody who might be thinking, oh, but maybe I don't want to change, or maybe she's going to ask me to do things that are too uncomfortable in my life, or give something up that I don't want to give up. But it's just 6 days, right?
Exactly. And that's the thing I think is a fearful or a hurdle to overcome for so many. When it comes to self care, many have tried so many things, right? We've tried this particular program, we've tried to do the journaling and the affirmations. Look, my life is too busy. I don't have time to go to the spa and get my hair and nails done. I don't have time, and there's so many things that go into healthcare, and that's why I say it's a custom thing for everyone. The free challenge on Facebook is going to be 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, 30 minutes live. You can block out 30 minutes a day. And if you can't come live, you can block out 30 minutes to listen to the replay where you learn things that can really fit in your busy day that can be life changing for you. And so that's what my thought was, to make it easy, to make it customizable, and to make it accessible to everyone. Because right now, the stress is here.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to folks in my telemedicine calls, when I am on because I run a BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color stress management group virtually. And the skills that we learn, the coaching that we're learning, there's things that you can learn for in the moment
hmm
and for the long term daily collections of stress. There's
hmm
things that people are dealing with that's not just like we would deal with the traffic jam pre-COVID, right? Right
Right.
now, we're dealing with incredible loss, mourning the loss of people lost family members to COVID,
hmm
mourning the loss of I can't do the work I used to do, mourning the loss
hmm
of social connection. Like you
hmm
said, being able to have a hug, being able to go out with someone, being in a situation where you're uncomfortable at your job, you're no longer confident at what you do because they're getting lean because of COVID, right? Or your business took a huge hit and now you're scrambling to revamp how you do business with your clients because your business was not COVID proof. There is a lot happening.
hmm
And if you're stuck in the happening, you don't have the armor of self care, which is an armor that
Ooh.
protects you against those stressors, then it's like walking around with that warrior spirit with no armor.
That is amazing. And I love that. I just wrote that down. Armor of self care.
Come on.
Okay. I think we need to get t shirts and bumper stickers.
Okay, now I got to trademark the armor of self care.
Armor of
Armor.
self care. And how you tied that armor into the warrior spirit, because I don't care how skilled or experienced a warrior is, they always carry that armor with them. And there's times you can lower it a little bit, and there's times when it just comes up and it's like back off because the hits are coming.
And
So
I need
yeah,
protection.
yeah. So from a medical standpoint, if we can address, like everybody knows stress is harms us, but because of your background, because of your education, if you could explain a little bit more from like a biological or physiological aspect of what stress does to our bodies.
Absolutely. So when I think about stress, if you are a big picture person, think about the wearing away of a surface, like how the Grand Canyon was created. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We had a trickle of water, a stream, right? And over time, the constant running of that stream created craters and big open spaces. It created a transformation that was irreversible. Okay. What stress does is it's a constantly applied pressure.
Mm,
Okay. We have different kinds of stressors. Some stress is motivating and good and temporary, and it teaches your body how to respond when it's supposed to respond, because this is a natural response of the body. Biologically, the stress response is what they used to call fight or flight,
mhm.
right? And now, when we think of it, when I talk to my hypnotherapist, we talk about fight, flight, freeze, or faint, right? There's actually more
Mm.
that happens, right? So we have all these reactions to stressors. What are stressors? Stressors can be anything. Stressors can be a thought. It could be something in our environment. It could be um, an actual physical stressor, something happening to our body. And so when it's applying that pressure, if it's an acute or a temporary pressure, our body knows how to handle it, right? It does its fight, flight, freeze, faint. It sends energy to where it needs to go. It takes care of the problem, and then it goes back to normal. It has a chance to rest and be back at homeostasis or normal functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we have chronic stress or activation of that fight, flight, freeze, faint over and over again, things can start to happen and go wrong. We start to misfire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the biggest places that are affected are our gut,
Mm-hmm.
our skin and hair,
Mm-hmm.
our heart, and our mental health. Okay. So, what will happen if you're supposed to be fighting this stressor? Our body's not thinking about digesting food right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to take all the resources away from the gut, for instance, and give it to the muscles that are supposed to be fighting or running. So now your gut is kind of like not hungry, right? Or it's hungry when it shouldn't be. It had enough to eat because the misfiring has causes differences in the way that it is actually moving. So you wonder why people who have a lot of stress have ulcers or have diarrhea issues or have chronic constipation. The misfiring of stress over and over again because of their thoughts, because of their work situation, because they are the only at work, because they are battling racism, because they are battling COVID. Those things have accumulated in the body. And so now the gut is like all messed up. So now you have IBS, you have inflammatory bowel syndrome, you have, these autoimmune diseases because the constant pressure over and over again, these hits have affected you. And so I mentioned the gut because it's such a common one, but anxiety, heart rate issues, the same thing changes the rhythm of the heart. Mental issues, I can't sleep. Now my sleep-wake cycle is off. Lack of sleep is a form of torture, right? It's a form of torture. It's used to torture people. And so this is just some of the examples of how stress affects our body. The estimate from the National Stress Institute is that 77% of doctor visits are stress-related and stress-exacerbated illness. 77%. That's nearly 80%. And that was in 2016 before the COVID pandemic.
Wow.
So this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, it also has an incredible impact on our immune system and our ability to fight infections. Anything that we might be under normal circumstances would be able to take care of pretty easily. This makes us vulnerable to a lot of different contagious infections.
Absolutely. When your stress level is up and your body's so busy mismanaging its energy, your body's busy firing when it should be resting. So often now things that normally would be attended to, the guard is somewhere else, right? So our normal functioning, look at all our body does. Our body fights off cancer cells. It knocks out environmental toxins. I mean, so something's going to get missed if it's spending all of its energy working on these stressors that are coming in and you don't have the armor of self-care and preventative health to help you. So.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, when you're talking about getting all the hits and everything, so you are misfiring, like the brain is misfiring and sending the signals to the body, and you're getting all of this malfunction, having that amount of stress constantly bombarding you, then you don't need as much stimulus to get that reaction of the misfiring. I like to explain it as when I'm going on my computer, and if I've been, looking at the same sites over and over again, well, I don't have to type in the whole URL. Then it's like, I only have to type in the first few words. And sometimes it's like the first two letters and boom, that computer knows what I'm doing. And your brain works the same way. And that's how that misfiring actually, it's easier and easier to get those triggers. It takes less of a stimulus to trigger that reaction and response. So you're really stuck.
And then that's a big one too, because our memory, like I hate to get metaphysical, right? But our
No, it's cool.
subconscious, our memory, I mean, we remember everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about the toxic stress of those, like I talked about, who maybe grew up in a family that was not supportive or helpful. So you have a memory of what it was like to be in that stressful situation at home, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be like domestic violence or alcoholism or whatever was happening at home. So, talking about being less of a trigger for something to set you off. So, now as an adult, you have memories of what it was like when someone's key was in the door.
Mm.
So now when you hear a key in the door, that automatically triggers that stress response. And you don't even think about it because it's something your body remembers from way back when you were a child.
Mm-hmm. I actually have a friend of mine, and we're going to get a little bit more metaphysical, if that's okay. Because I used to,
Come on.
I used to be very, Western medicine mindset. But as I have evolved in my life's journey and my path, started to embrace the woo and figure that there's a whole lot of science behind the woo. So yeah, that's one of
Yes.
my huge major growth issues. But even a baby in the womb is actually picking up on a lot of the mother's stress and the mom's experiences, because you're connected, your blood, you're sharing the same circulation. The baby, the fetus is still picking up on that.
Hello? Goodness. So listen, the Dutch winter hunger experiment. If you're listening to this, look this up. I can give you so many resources to look at this, but the Dutch winter hunger experiment, I think, is one that is very telling. Back in Nazi Germany, when the
Mm.
Dutch weren't helpful, they diverted food from the Dutch. So Holland didn't receive food. So they took a perspective and look back at the pregnant women who were in their second and third trimester who were starved
Oh.
because the Nazi German diverted food. These children that were born carried in their DNA the stress of living in a womb where resources were slim and their body had to adjust for that, right?
Oh.
So their bodies were in the stress response. So growing up that way and being formed that way, 50 years down the road, when we're in middle age, when we're starting to, they started to exhibit heart disease, cholesterol, higher
Mm.
incidences of depression, anxiety. So, and even now, like they have the ACEs score, right? Where adverse childhood event score, you can look at toxic environments and stressors and how it predicts later on in life the health problems that people will have. So, not just the fetus, DNA for generations carry stress.
That's
So,
incredible.
knowing the magnitude, it would be frivolous of us to think that doctors and Western medicine and somebody's going to solve all the problems,
Yeah,
right?
right.
That would be almost like, come on now. So, we have to make sure that we're doing what we can do to make it so the next generation has more tools of coping and that it has a better environment to exist in. So this is the mission. This is what
Mm-hmm.
I'm on. This is the jam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. So let me take that one step further, because you're
Okay.
not quite saying it. You basically can change the DNA of future generations.
Absolutely.
I am so
That
happy to hear you say this, because years ago, I was very best and dearest friends with a woman who, after 30 years of being best friends, I had to break up with her. And it was a very sad thing. But anyhow, she was a brilliant woman, brilliant, had her PhD in molecular biology and did a tremendous amount of scientific research, very well respected. And she went to a chiropractor one time, and they were getting into a conversation, and the chiropractor was explaining to her that you can actually change your DNA through healthy eating and changing patterns. and then you can pass it on down to, future generations. And she thought that was absolutely the dumbest thing she ever heard, that it was not humanly possible. It was scientifically proven that it could not be done. You can change almost anything with the right repatterning or mindset or self-care. You absolutely can change what you're giving and passing on to your future generations.
You know, I think that as things evolve and thought patterns evolve and we learn new things, we know where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We can't always predict where we're going. And from what I've learned and experienced is all that I can say. I
Mm-hmm.
could talk about evidence and studies that show these things, right? But I've actually experienced and seen some things. So it's kind of difficult to go against your own eyes.
Right, right.
When you see something, it's hard to go
Yeah.
against your own eyes. And so, what I always say when people have differences like that, and I'm so sorry that you had to experience the breakage of a 30-year friendship, good night. But we of course know that we're all here on a path for a reason, a season. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know what
Mm-hmm.
the connection will be. Um, but I'm so grateful that the liberation and freedom that comes from what you said of being able to express what you really feel
Mm-hmm.
and live in the joy and the expectation of something better than just thinking that I have the cards that I'm dealt and
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing I can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much a better thought to choose. It serves me better to choose the thought that I absolutely can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I choose.
Mm-hmm. It's all about making those choices. And thank you for saying you're sorry about it. But I have to tell you, when it was all said and done, I was a happy, happy person. And I felt like
Yes,
somebody,
I feel it.
somebody
It's
had
coming
removed,
off of you,
I'm
right?
telling you, somebody had removed like a 50-pound weight from the top of my head. And the funniest thing was that after, I finally broke up with her. It was amazing how many wonderful, positive, supportive, and beautiful people just came into my life. It was truly amazing. And it's been that way ever since.
Releasing the stress opens up the hands to accept so much more. I love it.
Exactly. So, one of the things that we talked about, of course, was dance, because we both are dancers. And as you were talking just about the self care and the armor of self care, which I'm totally embracing, I just love that. That is so cool. It gives us, I think, the freedom and the power to dance through life. Life was meant to be experienced in a way that you can be joyful and happy. And even when you go through the very difficult times, the challenges, the sadness, the really hard times, it's okay to step aside, just embrace that, experience it, and then get through it and onto the other side and continue with the dance.
I love that. I love that parallel to dance because we are dancing through life, right? We're making adjustments. We're moving and
Mhm.
ducking certain things, and then
Mhm.
we engage with a partner, and then we move on to another partner dance. And so I love that analogy. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So, do you have any other words of wisdom that you would like to share with us, Michelle? You've been wonderful. You're just a wealth of information. I am in love with you. I'm in love with your energy, and I am totally in love with your message.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Thank you so much. See, soul connections. And that's what I mean by community and connection, and how I always kind of hammer that home.
Mhm.
As far as words of wisdom, when I think of what I've learned from people like you who have truly lived life, people like me who have had the blessing of getting to live life fully, despite chronic pain, despite stressors of undiagnosed illnesses. What I really love about this journey is treating it like an experiment, just trying on experiences, getting to see what it is you truly like, and then really doing it.
Mm.
Because really, self care is all about self discovery.
Mhm.
And when you discover yourself, you have a map. And just looking at the map is of no use, right? You have to actually go to the places on the map to actually get the experience. So, getting to know you and then doing the dance, actually going after it.
Mhm.
I think it would be a huge testament that you could go on your transition through this, to death, to the next life, saying, "Hey, I did everything that I wanted to do."
Mhm. So how can people get a hold of you?
Goodness. So my name,
Mhm.
of course, is Michele Johnson. I'm also known as the Pain Free PA. So on Facebook, you can find my page at Pain Free PA. On Instagram is the Pain Free PA. My website is www.thepainfreepa.com. My email is thepainfreepa@gmail.com. And I will definitely post a link for my 6 days to self-care challenge. It's happening April 9th through the 14th. That'll be after this show airs, but I know that I will continue to do this. So reach out to me. We'll talk about when the next challenge is, because I know
Perfect.
that this is needed.
Mhm. So, Michele, I just did want to ask you though. So, you are going to be doing those Facebook lives, right, for your 6 day challenge of
Yes,
self or 6 days of self care. So, will
yes.
people still be able to access them even after April? They'll be posted on your site as recordings, or not?
They'll be posted in the Facebook group.
Okay,
So they're
in the
welcome to
group.
see them in the group.
Okay.
I want to build a community. The group is the hub of the community. So I would
Okay.
want them to join and get the trainings, whether they're live or recorded.
Okay. Excellent. What a fun interview this was. I mean, I just absolutely love you.
Yay!
Can't say enough. Thank you, Michele, so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I love you back. And I'm so grateful for this platform. So if you ever need me or want some of my expertise back, I'm happy to come. Let me know what you need. Okay.
Okay, you are welcome back anytime. You're going to be one of my Femininja All-Stars. Love having
Yay!
you, love showcasing you. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. And really, you've got to check out Michele's website. Ooh, don't forget about her book too. She's got a great book out there. Website, her book, her Facebook page, her Instagram. Especially go to her Facebook group and join, because obviously, if you can't tell, there's the book. Oh, look at that beautiful face. I love that picture. So
Thank you.
anyway, yeah, check her out because she is just absolutely amazing. And remember to every single day, take care of yourself, listen to yourself, and put on your armor of self-care
Yes.
and your warrior spirit, because that is how you're going to get through life. And that is also the way of the Femininja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the Femininja Project. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.